more than a segue and an introduction. I think that was a little mini TED Talk you just gave right there. Very nicely done. I'm here today to talk about the value of place, specifically the value I found in finding my geographic place and using that as the center for the change that I wanted to create. First, I got to give you a little backstory, and then a little confession. So I grew up in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, right on the shoreline, right on Long Island Sound. It's a really beautiful town. About 9,000 people wintertime population, about 30,000 people summertime. It's a gorgeous place. We were so close to the water that during high school at lunch, we could drive to the beach and stick our toes in the ocean and eat our lunch and head back to class. It was a really beautiful place to be, with a very vibrant main street, a really gorgeous, polished presentation. And this was my upbringing. This was a really great place to come from. Now, fast forward, it was about 12 years ago. In fact, it was 12 years ago this week that I had the opportunity to drive through Butte for the first time on the interstate. I got to see the beautiful uptown landscape, the gorgeous old buildings, that big skyline we don't have in Montana or in Connecticut, and it was really, really beautiful. And then I looked off to the side and I saw this pit, like a scar on the side, and it was dry and it was dusty and it was not beautiful relative to my other experiences in Montana and in Connecticut. And here's my confession. My thought was, what a dump. I feel sorry for anyone who lives there. And as fate would have it, 48 hours later, I was given a very compelling reason to turn this place into my place. It started out simple, right? With a smile and a smile. And I've been here now for 12 years. And I've gladly eaten my words every day since. This is my home, and moving here changed my perspective. I got to see it close up, not just from what you could see on the interstate. So let me tell you a little bit about Butte, Montana, or as we call it here, Butte, America. Butte started out as a mining town. They came initially for gold, and they found some, but what they really found was copper. They came in droves from all over to seek their fortune, to seek the American dream. They came mostly men, Irish, Italian, Finnish, Cornish, Welsh, German, Chinese. They came from everywhere. They turned Butte into the most ethnically diverse place on the planet. And when they were done with their shifts in the mine, they would go home to their own little ethnic neighborhoods where they could speak their own language. Meterville, McQueen, Finntown, Dublin Gulch. Butte was an incredibly culturally rich community. But mining comes at a cost. Butte's home to the single largest underground mining disaster ever. 168 lives lost in 1917 in the Granite Mountain Speculator disaster. And it wasn't just people who suffered. The landscape suffered as well. By 1920, there were no trees left on the Butte Hill. Those that hadn't been cut down, choked. They were suffocated by the smoke belching out of the smelters. And much of that landscape is still devoid of trees nearly 100 years later. And of course, the open pit mine, like scar on the side of town. I was guilty of it. I had judged this place based on what you can see at 65 miles an hour. And my attitude changed as soon as I moved here and gave it a closer look. And I learned that other people from inside Montana and outside Montana share that same rush to judgment. Judge our place based on what you see. see from the interstate, not the experience you have being there. And I spent some time trying to figure out how I could change that. So, my first effort in that direction came from a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Sarah Calhoun. You can look her up online. She's a TEDx presenter. She quoted a poet, Gary Snyder, an old beat poet, an essayist. She quoted him. The quote is, "Find your place on the planet, dig in, and take responsibility from there." And this was it. This was it. When I heard this, I was changed. And I went and I looked it up and I researched it, and it turns out it's a footnote in a book he wrote called Turtle Island. And what for Gary Snyder was a footnote, for me was a game changer. This has become my wayfinding. This is the statement, the compass I use to evaluate my actions, my choices, my decisions. So, several years ago, my husband worked for a company based in Butte. He traveled around the Midwest and he built biodiesel refineries. And it was a really great job, but like lots of great jobs, his company was bought by another company and they didn't need the 23 people employed in Butte anymore. And it didn't matter how hard he worked, he lost his job. So right, then you've got a decision to make, you've got a choice. Are you gonna go move somewhere else and chase jobs? This was our home, we were staying, and that wasn't an option. So, to go find a job working for somebody else. Well, he'd done that already, and it hadn't worked out very well for him, which leaves us with a third option, right? The entrepreneurial spirit. And if you're very lucky, right, you can do what you know and do what you love. And for us, we wanted to take that one step further. We were going to do what we knew. We were going to do what we loved, but we were going to do it in a way that added value to our community. And that's how we opened a micro distillery. And there were lots of challenges. There were lots of challenges along the way. Financing, licensing. Some of them were really awful and unpleasant challenges. Some of them were a lot of fun. For us, one of those was finding a location, finding a building. We spent 6 months looking. We knew it had to be uptown in that beautiful old historic district on the hill. We knew that it had to have a public space and it had to have a production space. It had to be able to support big tanks and forklifts, and it had to have a big overhead door for shipments going in and out, and it took us 6 months. And when we found it, we knew. This was it. We found our place. But it was kind of a mess. This building was built in 1919. It was Butte's first Buick dealership. Those big windows on the corner there, you could look in and see all the brand new cars. But 100 years had passed, and we knew it had stood for 100 years without us. It was our job to make sure that it was ready to stand for the next 100 years. So we power washed the outside, and we painted the trim, and we took down all the old signs and wires that didn't need to be there, and we repainted the sign up at the top, and it went from this to this. And when it turns out that our project required an upgrade to our water line, and our plumber, Troy, said, I can fill this whole sidewalk back in, or I can leave you a little spot there, and you can maybe plant a tree. And we said, Troy, thank you. We are going to plant a tree, Troy, and we did plant a tree, and we named that tree Troy, and we faithfully watered him every week. And the inside was a mess too. This was our public space before. This is our public space after. And you can't see or appreciate these changes at 65 miles an hour. But when you get off the interstate and look, they're right there. So this was it. We found our place. and we dug in. But we weren't done yet. We needed people to come help us, people to come work with us. We dug in by making jobs. We have 19 people that we write paychecks for now. 19 people who have dug in right alongside of us. Some of those people are students putting themselves through college. Some are full-time employees, Butte residents. Some are folks that we have imported to Butte who share our passion for this place. One, I'm really proud to say, lost his job with my husband at that biodiesel company. But he kept his home in Butte and commuted 200 miles to work every Monday and 200 miles home to Butte on Friday. And now he gets to commute about a mile every day. These people have dug in with us. And we weren't done there. These old mining uprights, these are the elevators that lowered miners underground, sometimes up to a mile underground. And we named our company after those uprights, and we named our products after the mines themselves. We knew it was our job to use our company to tell the story of this place, to communicate a different experience of this community than what you could see from the interstate at 65 miles an hour. For us, this was taking responsibility. But our responsibility didn't end at our front door. We partnered with groups like the World Museum of Mining to make sure that we were doing a good and right and accurate job interpreting the story that we were trying to tell. And they liked what we were doing, and they offered us artifacts to interpret in our space, including the Rocky Mountain Bar from the old Italian neighborhood of Meterville, which now sits in the middle of that open pit mine. I talked to a woman recently. She's a business owner in Uptown Butte. She said, I hope my neighbor plants flowers again in her little planters this spring. It looks so nice when she does. And I asked her if she had considered planting flowers. And she hadn't. I didn't mean anything big fancy. Little planters, she'd set them outside in the morning, she'd put them back in at the end of the day, and it hadn't occurred to her. And I think that it's easy for each of us to forget that we hold in our heads and our hearts that engine for change. And that's all it takes. It's just a small change. It's greeting the world with a smile. It's planting some flowers. It's dressing up the building. Each of these serves not only to make our one little place in the world better, but it serves to challenge, to encourage, and to inspire other people to take those steps as well. And we didn't start it. We were swept up in it. Sons and daughters of Butte coming home and digging in themselves, purchasing buildings, opening new businesses, turning their little place of the world into the place they wanted to see. People going out into the world and amassing knowledge and bringing it home to Butte to make this place even better, even richer. And then imports like me, who shared that sense of commitment and ownership of this place. And we've been supported, sustained, and even spurred on by local entities, by local government. We, together, have dug in. I think we all have a place that we are passionate about. And so I encourage you to start small, to be the person that you are proud of being, to present your own little piece of the world in the way that you are proud of, whether that's an apartment window, your home, your building, your empire, or even just smile in a way that you are proud of, in a way that adds value to your community. That's when it goes viral. That's when all of those little changes snowball. And that's when you will drive through this community on the interstate at 65 miles an hour. And you might see that pit out of the corner of your eye, but you're going to be caught by the trees. You're going to be caught by the beautiful buildings. You're going to be caught by that vibrant Main Street, that beautiful community that we are all building together. So, however you define your place on the planet, it's shaped every day by your actions, your choices, however small. Each of us has the power to be the change that we want to see, and sometimes it does just start